What if I told you there was a prisoner? There was a prisoner that held the key to the prison in their hand, but yet every day shut their door on their own prison and locked it. Today I want to talk about something that has taken me a long time to really understand and really get clear about how I was holding the key to my own personal prison. And you think, well, if they got the key, why don't they let themselves out? Because it's only a key when you know how to use the key. It's only a key when you know that you actually have the key in your hand. It could be anything. But you think, what's this thing that I have? How do I use it? The key to my freedom, really, when you think about all the things that I've been through and when you think about life in general and the reasons why I constantly trap myself in the world of alcohol addiction, was perhaps, really powerful when you think that for all that time, I mean, there's obviously many things and many reasons why people get caught in addiction. But for me, one of the main things was, I guess, the anger, maybe the anger and resentment. And they talk about that in some of the 12-step groups and stuff. But it's really important that you let go of that. And how do you do that? Like, what's that look like? What is the word that you use? The word that I'd use is forgiveness. Because when you start to have some forgiveness for yourself, forgiveness for others around you, forgiveness for the things that people did or didn't do to you, for you, you start to recognize that we're all human. We all make mistakes, and that's okay. And the reason why forgiveness is so important, especially when you're getting sober, is because if you don't live with a forgiving heart, you're actually caging yourself. You're caging your mind. You're caging your possibility, because that resentment is going to just sit there. And it's like a rage that can't be dampened. And the only thing that you try to dampen it with is the alcohol. It's like, this person did this to me and this person did this about me. And you see people that always are thinking that people are talking about them, whether they are or aren't, that's irrelevant. Because if you're always worried externally about what people are saying, doing, and all these sort of things, you can lose the perspective of life, that a lot of the stuff doesn't really matter. Because in my life things happen to me and I did things to others. So if I looked back at my drinking years and I said, well, I did all these shit things, therefore I'm a shit person, and I use that I don't know, that disappointment about where I am in life and the disappointment about how my life has turned out because of my drinking. If I didn't forgive that version of myself, it would be quite easy just to drink on that. It would be quite easy just to go, oh well, there's no point. So you've got to let go. Just let go of all those things that sit in the back of your head, all the people that did you wrong, all the things that people said about you, and just let it go. And it's hard. It really is. But at the same time, the alternative is harder, carrying around all that angst and anger and things that don't really matter in the scheme of life. Because you can't lead and rebuild your life if you don't believe that you deserve peace. And believing that you deserve peace comes when you start to live in the frame of forgiveness. And it's not to say that, everybody's free and, whatever people did was right or wrong or anything. All it is that you're just letting go of that resentment and you're coming from a place of understanding that, you know, people make mistakes. I've made mistakes. All the people in my life have made mistakes, but we just have to forgive sometimes. And really, ask yourself, when was the last time you forgave yourself for something? Not just for what you did, but for who you weren't or were not. Because that's when you can start to get freedom. That's when you can start to be free, when you actually start to live with the frame of forgiveness. And if you don't live in that frame, what happens is you get this shame loop, a loop of shame where you get the guilt, you feel guilty. So then you drink. And then you regret. Then you guilt again. And then you repeat the cycle. And that's why we can get stuck in the habitual, repeating of the relapse, because we feel shit, so we drink. We drink, and then we feel shit because we drank. And then we regret that, and then we feel shit, and then we drink again and again. And all the time that it's always, just goes on and on. But in reality, if we just understood that we're imperfect humans, that we made a mistake, and it's okay. It's part of the journey, is recognizing that we make mistakes. We're not human, or we are human. And letting go of that need for perfection. One of the things that I really, in a lot of ways, that I think the mindset of the 12-step fellowship is that this abstinence, like mantra of that, if you're 365 days and 265 minutes clean, sober, and you're perfected. And if you fuck up just once, you're back to the beginning. And that mindset can be really, really dangerous to somebody that's just made a little slip up. So for me personally, I don't count my days, how many days since my last drink. I just worry about not drinking today. That's the only thing I can control, and that's the only thing that matters. And if I made a mistake, it wouldn't put me back at the start. It would just mean that something wasn't sitting well with me, something needed to be corrected, whether that's my circumstances or my mindset or whatever it is. It's just a signal that, hey, there's something that needs to be addressed here. And if you instead of going, oh fuck, well, I've blown it and we're all shit and disaster and we're back at the beginning, because if you have that mindset, you get stuck in that perpetual loop. And then if you're in that loop, it's easy just to continue on that loop until infinity. And then eventually the bottle will just take you out. But if you recognize that, hey, this is just a sign that something's not right. This is a sign that I need to adjust. Need to adjust my thinking, need to adjust my circumstances, need to adjust whatever it is that is putting you off. It's an opportunity for learning. So that mindset of all or nothing, whether you're drinking or not drinking, and that can be dangerous. So you don't want to get stuck in that sort of, I don't know, that rigid thinking. I mean, it's important not to drink. Don't get me wrong. And, I wouldn't recommend that you have one foot in, one foot out and shake it all about. But also you've got to have a forgiving heart and forgive yourself if you make a mistake, because that's where you can easily just throw it all away. And I think there's a saying, isn't it, that throw the baby out with the bathwater. And that can really happen when you have that mindset of all or nothing. And when I think about it, having shame isn't accountability, and it isn't recognizing that you did something wrong, because the shame, the holding on to that shame and that guilt and the remorse is poison to your sobriety. And there's many times and many things that I've done when I was drinking that I deeply regret. Many things that I said that, hey, if I could take back, I would, but I can't. And if I was to hold on to that, that would be my poison. And that's where you have the power to pick up the key and open the door to your freedom and start to think, well, fuck, I'm not perfect. Why do we expect everyone else in our lives to be perfect? And it's just about just being honest with yourself and others. And there's a difference. There's a real difference between guilt and shame. Guilt says, I did something bad. And shame is, I am bad. And when you recognize the two, you can recognize that guilt is a moment and shame is your identity. And your identity is going to be the thing that really shapes your life and shapes the things that you do and you say and you are. And you've got to recognize that you can't build a new identity while you're carrying on the old identity and worshipping your old mistakes and living in the past of the mistakes and really carrying that shame. And there's many things in my life that I held on to that I couldn't forgive. That, the things that I did to others, things that I did to myself, the things that people did to me, the things that I drank to forget, and, the lies that I'd tell. Start to think about, some of the things that you could start to be honest with yourself about. What are some of the things that in your life where you haven't told anyone about your drinking? What about if your son did the things that you're holding on to? Would you forgive them? Because when you start, it's easier to look at forgiveness through somebody else's eyes and see that perhaps people are just human and people make mistakes, and that's okay. Let's talk about how you can actually forgive yourself. How you can forgive yourself. What I want you to do is to face the truth about what it is that you're holding on to. Just write it down, own it, and all of it. Just own it. Write it down and just own all of it. And then acknowledge the pain that you caused. No sugarcoating. Just acknowledge it. Just go, okay, well, I did that. And then declare your decision to forgive. And then say out loud, I forgive myself for, whatever you've written down. And then start to create new evidence around who you are and the things that you do. Because forgiveness sticks when life proves the old story wrong. So you can start to go, I may have done things in the past, but I'm a good person now because of X, Y, and Z. And it probably sounds a bit, airy-fairy or whatever. But these are the things that you have to start to do and have to start to think about in order to create a new identity. And how you can start to get a new identity for yourself. Really think about what are the things that you're still punishing yourself for. In life, we can punish ourselves forever. And sometimes we, like including myself, can be the hardest taskmaster of the world. And if you're still punishing yourself, ask yourself, what would change if you believed that you were forgiven for that thing? How would your life change? What would you do differently? Start to think when you pick up that key and you have that freedom, what will life be like? What choices would you have made or would you not have made? Because you can't wait for other people to forgive you. Because if you're waiting for someone to forgive you first, Most people won't say it. Some never will. Because you have to forgive yourself first. You have to be the leader in your life. And forgiveness isn't about looking for approval from others. It's releasing that energetic binding and chains that you have to that resentment and that anger. And you know, why is that important? Because they're really not being able to forgive is really a real big link to relapse. And they reckon that unforgiveness is one of the number one reasons people relapse. Because you're not drinking for fun, you're drinking to forget. The only way that you can move forward is by healing. Healing the past, healing the resentment, healing all that shit. And just start to think, well, what part of your life or what part of you are you trying to escape? I know there's many things that I've tried to escape. You know, when I first started drinking, I was just trying to escape the feeling of not being enough, not being strong enough, not being clever enough, not being good enough. And the more I drank, the more not enough I was. So the more I had to drink. And then I'd tell myself the lie that I'm not enough. And then it would just keep on going. And that shame loop, that cycle would continue on. And I'd close my cage every night, one sip at a time. So if anything you've got from this, I just want to tell you that forgiveness, real forgiveness, is the key to freedom. It's the key that you have in your hand to open up the door of not only sobriety, but just a general happy life. Because sobriety is just not drinking. It's facing who you were, looking at that person, and loving the man that you will become, and you are becoming. Because you can't become that man you were born to be until you forgive the man that you were. And you say, oh. But the truth is, you have to do the work, face the fire, forgive and fucking forget, and move on. They don't say forgive and forget for no reason, because forgiveness is freedom. So I encourage you to start to look at how you can forgive yourself, how you can forgive others, and start to recognize that resentment, that anger and that pain is actually the thing that's closing you tighter and tighter into that trap of addiction and the cycle of shame, guilt, and remorse. But you too can start to forgive yourself and others. And remember, forgiveness doesn't have to be some big thing that you go around going, I forgive you, like you're the Pope. You're not. You're just a person. You just say it to yourself. And forgiveness is in here. It's not about, going around trying to forgive everyone and look good. It's just about letting go of all the things that you're holding on to inside. And if that sounds like something that you're interested in, if it's been of help, click the link below and go to kickthepiss.com or watch the free training how we can help you start to forgive yourself, start to get sober. Because I'm on a mission to help men like yourself quit drinking, start living, and build the life that they deserve. Because there's more to life than getting pissed every day. kickthepiss.com